How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the corner. I am the DM as always, and today I want to talk a little bit about Passive Exile. Specifically, I want to talk about the
Well,
Mercenaries,
what will
and
it
the
be then?
reason why I'm going to be honest is because of Quinn's hot take. Like his take is fucking just terrible. It's ass. If we're being honest. Uh,
Hurry up!
he says so he starts off by saying that he thinks that PoE is like in a great spot or whatever. Um, and then decides he also wants to say that that this league is just hot dog shit and that it's a terrible league. And that it's like the worst expansion yet. Now here's the thing: everyone's entitled to their opinions. It's whatever, right? But his opinion is just wrong, I feel. And it, so my thoughts on the
Well,
mercenary system
what
is
will it be then?
I do agree that I don't think they should go core. Um, they
You
are
poke around too
they
long.
are simply too powerful in every context to go core, even as like just another farming method. I think it's too it's not a system designed for core. Um, Mercenaries at this point in the game are still able to simply one tap you from full HP. They don't they don't really have well telegraphed attacks like some bosses do, for example. Um, it's because they use player skill gems and whatnot, and player skills don't really like if I just use shield charge for example, this doesn't really have a what am I trying to say? Um, a clear indicator for its hitbox, right? Like this hitbox right here, the visual that you see is not its actual hitbox. I've hit enemies that are like, let's say I'm here, right, and I'm shield charging through here. I've hit enemies that are like over here, right? But if you look at the actual graphic for it, it doesn't have none of the graphic actually extends out to here, right? And admittedly, that's kind of something that a lot of bosses in this game have as well, where or just enemies in general, where they will have a much larger AOE radius than the graphic actually shows. And this is an issue even in Path of Exile 2. And it's something that I've talked about before, where they just, if you're going to design something like this and have like an AoE that you have to avoid and get out of, you need to make sure that your players are capable of seeing where it ends so that way they don't feel like they got cheated out of a death, right? Especially in Path of Exile 1, where if you die in a map, that portal is just gone, right? If you leave a map for any reason, the portal you used to get in there is gone. You don't get it back or anything. Unlike in PoE 2, where you can enter a map and then let's say someone contacts you for a trade, you can portal out, go and sell it, and then use the same portal that you used the first time to go back in. And you only lose that portal when you actually die. Right? They need that's something that I think they need to bring over to PoE1. But mercenaries. So this mercenary
You
I
poke
used
around
for a
too
really
long.
long time, Titania, and it's because of her Vol ice shot. In fact, her ice shot is so ridiculous. It inspired me to make an ice shot. I did end up going Deadeye instead of Warden, but um, I ended up making a ice shot character. Although I haven't really done much with him because I've been mostly focusing on my RF on this character. This guy I was also using for a very long
Just
time
stand
because he's
there.
super, super tanky. Um, he has physical aegis, which absorbs incoming damage. His intimidating cries, so he can taunt things and then exert some of his attacks, as well as give you move speed. He has prism, prism plate, which gives a portion of their armor to an ally or allows an ally to have their armor absorb a portion of elemental damage. This guy was making me exceptionally tanky. He has this, which is honestly kind of good. I think it does some cold damage because I think I remember seeing it like freeze some enemies, but it just kind of does like some pretty decent AoE damage because it scales off of the shield, and I give him a pretty high armor shield. He has shield charge, so he can kind of keep up. He can also really engage, and he has shield crush, which just uh, really helps for him to draw aggro. And because he has a leech, he doesn't really take a whole lot of damage, and plus. Um, Mercenaries just in general. Oh, this is why. Because I put this on him, it converts all of his physical damage into cold. Um, but Mercenaries in general are just kind of really takey. Like this one right here, this Kineticist. There are attacks that just outright one-shot me, and then it just fucking completely tickles the Kineticist. Right? The Kineticist doesn't really. You can look here at the defenses. It really doesn't have a whole lot of defenses, and their energy shield isn't even all that great. But they just really don't take a whole lot of damage. Um, and that's kind of one of my issues with them, is that when they're on your side, because like the kineticist, this specific kineticist, the one that has kinetic bolt and greater kinetic blast, um, this type of kineticist is really strong at like AoE clear, and so is this one, the Vol Ice Shot mini shot character. But this one's even better at single target damage. In fact, let me pull up a clip real quick. So this is a clip from when I was using the mini shot, the Vol Ice Shot, this one. I don't remember what tier of map this is. I think this was like a tier 12 to tier 13. But just pay attention to the HP bar of the boss. That is not my damage that is causing it to just kind of explode. That would be my mercenary. Oh, sorry, this is not the mini shot mercenary. This is a different one. I don't know which mercenary this is. Oh, this is a mercenary I no longer have. But you can see that the boss was instantly phased. Again, this was not me. This is a melee, I think, chaos damage mark. But you can see every time the HP bar comes back, it just completely evaporates again. And this is entirely the merc doing all of the damage. My damage was absolutely dog shit. You can see the damage I'm doing is just non-existent when the merc isn't hitting it. Right? And all the monsters are dead, the mark immediately hits it and instantly phases the boss, right? Now the one clip I was going to show, apparently I don't have anymore, but basically it was this mercenary, there was a boss that I was fighting, and she wasn't really doing anything at first because there were some other mobs around. And then once all the mobs were dead, she immediately used her Vol Ice Shot and hit the boss, and the boss just melted, just evaporated instantly. So like the mercenaries are exceedingly overtuned, both with the players and against the players. There was a clip recently from Zizarin, who had he was running an ARF build, very very late game. He had like 7k health. Let's see, 7k health, 90% elemental resistance, and 5 endurance charges. And endurance charges give a 4% physical and elemental damage reduction that stacks with all other forms of mitigation, of course, per stack. And so with 5, he was getting a 20% elemental damage reduction. He had 90% all resist. And he was going up against the Lightning Merc, and the Lightning Merc effectively one-tapped him. Now, technically, if you pause it and go frame by frame, it wasn't a one-tap. What it did was there was one hit that took him down from 7k to 2k, so it dealt 5,000 damage, and then about 5 frames later, he was hit with another attack. However, human reaction speed is, I think, 216 milliseconds. Yeah, typically average about 250 milliseconds. The fastest being around 100 to 120, and 120 milliseconds for context. So 120 milliseconds is about 8 8.4 FPS, 8.4 frames. So even if, and I mean, if even if we were to go 100, right, the most extreme, that's 10 frames. So even the fastest reaction speed in the world would not be able to react to that kind of situation, right? It just literally is not possible. So, and this is of course uh, after the mercenaries have been nerfed, right? Now, granted, if we just pull that up real quick, yeah. So here in 326C, they made the following nerfs specifically to enemy mercenaries, where the critical modifier now only applies at 50% of their value. Power, all of the charges basically work how they do with players instead of monsters, which is fucking 200%, which is insane. And then they reduced the damage of all of these skills because all of these skills were fucking ridiculously overpowered and overtuned. However, the enemy mercenaries are still way overtuned. I am a very strong enemy, effectively, of one shots. I think one shots are stupid. I think they're boring, and I think they're lazy. Um, I don't think under any circumstance uh, are one-shot mechanics a good thing, just in general. Now, I do think that attacks should be able to one-shot you if you don't have the right defenses, right? So, for example, right, you can see all of my resistances are 86%, even my chaos is at 39%. However, right, let's say an enemy does an attack that does chaos damage, right? It's a big wind up and everything before they fire, I don't know, a fucking laser beam, right? And the laser beam does chaos damage, and I just sit there and tank it, right? Because I'm in end game, I should die to that in one shot because I don't have 75% chaos resistance, right? Now, if this is like an uber max level end game pinnacle boss, I think that you should be required to have 75% defense in order to not get one shot. I think that if you have 75% resistance, however, let's say, I don't know, let's say the attack does 4,000 damage. Or not even that. Let's say it does 10,000 damage raw, right? So right now I would get one shot because I only have 5,000 HP, or not even 5,000 HP, and I don't have maxed chaos resist, right? However, when I pop my ruby flask, you can see all of my elemental resistances go to 90. I should be in, especially with my block chance being 75% on each, I should be effectively immortal to any elemental resistance or any elemental damage, right? The only the only thing that should sort of go against that narrative is if they have something like a ton of penetration. Now, right now, the way penetration works in Path of Exile, and this is something I only found out recently, is if a mob has, let's say, 9% penetration, right? My 86% fire resistance goes down to 75%. And that is regardless of the fact that I have 287% overcapped fire resistance. So penetration effectively lowers your maximum resistance against that attack or mob, right? Whereas something like exposure lowers your overall resistance, right? So if you have a 30% fire exposure, my fire resistance would go down to 257%, right? This is why mercenaries are so overtuned. Because a lot of mercenaries have elemental penetration. Like this one, for example, her eye shot has 12% cold penetration, right? So if this mercenary was fighting me, my penetration or my cold resist would be 74%, not 86%, like it shows right here, right? But there's nothing in the game to tell you how penetration works, right? Because at least for me, and maybe other people feel differently, but when I think about penetration, I think about, it's penetrating your total resistance. So my total resistance right now for like cold fiery, for example, is 287. For cold, it's 139%, right? So this penetration shouldn't do anything, right? And to me, the difference, the reason why I think it should work this way, right, is because the penetration on this, for example, is a skill gem. It's just one single skill gem. I can fucking go here and type penetration, right? And I can just grab this and I can throw it on whatever, right? And this is 20%, right? However, um, exposure is a whole ass skill gem all by itself, right? And when not only is it a whole ass skill gem, right? You have to actually manually apply it, unless you have like specific rings or a specific setup in order to just automate it, right? This, however, means that it's not something you just slap onto another skill and make that skill just better. It's something that you actively have to apply in some way. So, to sum it all up, I think the mercenary system should not go core. I think that the mercenaries are simply too overtuned in every regard, in their defenses, in their power, both against and for the player. Uh, their utility is simply too busted. Um, like I said, this guy has
Don't
fucking
just stand there.
taunts and AoE, effectively an AoE freeze, right? Um,
What
Titania here
captain?
literally has AoE freezes. And then my kineticist here is giving me haste. I can throw this on her, and then she provides me frenzy charges. With this, whenever with this, she steals charges, and then because she steals them, she shares them with this, right? And so, and then you can give them like Leer Cast, you can give them like Shaper Seed, you can give them all these things that can like buff you. You can get ones with like a Malevolence aura. This one has the Hatred aura. You can get them with Determination, Vitality. You can make them just a complete aura bot for you, right? And just massively spike your damage. Like right now, if I were to pop this, you can see it's just sitting at 190k when I'm just standing there, right? And if I move over here, it's down to 162k. So I'm getting 30k damage just from standing near them. That was actually with, because both of these have Leer Cast. So with just one of them, it's 176k, right? So I'm getting 16k, 14k damage just from the fact that one of them has a Leer Cast, right? And if I could have both of them with me at the same time, it would obviously stack. If you get a full party of these all with Learcast, since you can see up here, they clearly stack together. Like your damage just gets insane if you get a whole huge party with them together, right? I think the decision to make them count as only like half a player is stupid. I think they should count as a full player
Well,
because
let's
of the
have it then.
power that they have. Um, Especially when you combine them with other players. Now, I still don't think they should take up a player slot, but I do think they should count as a player. Um, so, but yeah, so
Well,
that's my
come
thoughts. I
on.
think mercenaries are simply too overtuned for to go core. If they want them to go core, they have to massively nerf them and just reduce everything about them. Reduce their durability, not to the point where they just like explode, but like if I sitting at 90% resistance to everything and like 5k health can get one tapped by like a Shaper's Ball. Now, granted, Shaper's Balls have like 30% elemental penetration on them, so realistically, even at 90%, you only have 60%. But if I can get one tapped by them, at
Well,
the very
what will
least,
it
the
be then?
fucking kineticist, who has like not even half my defenses in a lot of cases, you shouldn't get like fucking tickled. Like her energy shield barely gets touched by the Shaper's balls. So yeah, that's my thoughts. That's my opinions. And that's all for this video. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for coming to my corner. If you liked the video, hit like and subscribe. If you didn't like the video, hit dislike it, leave a comment, let me know why, and I will see you all next time.